Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay, it is Wednesday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions and ableauctions.ca. Again, the Canucks, if you missed the start of the show, we've got other Canuck news coming up in a second here, but they have signed Elias Pettersson, the left-handed defenseman, the youngster drafted in 2022, to a three-year, Rick? Three-year contract, entry-level deal.
Yep.
Speaking of the Canucks, Abbotsford version, they start their AHL opening round series tonight in Abbotsford against Bakersfield. Here to talk about that, he covers the Abbotsford Canucks like no one else. From Canucks Army and Canucks Convo, Chris Faber. How are you, sir? Oh, wow.
Doing great, guys. How are you guys doing?
Looking
well,
sharp.
you know what? You are, I think, our first guest who is dressed that well for us.
Yeah.
Tie, dress shirt, the whole bit.
Fabulous. I love purple burgundy. Beautiful.
I think they call it peacocking. When you don't have good looks, you have to spice things up a little bit. So I'm trying to dress it up a little.
Oh, I'm well aware of that, Chris. Hey, what's the atmosphere? Because Ryan doesn't think it's going to be that good. What's the atmosphere going to be like tonight in Abbotsford?
Yeah, you can rip Ryan all you want, but he's somewhat right on the whole Wednesday night thing, right? Like from what I'm hearing, Friday is going to be a wild night, almost sold out already. But tonight's Wednesday. Wednesdays aren't Fridays. And I think it's going to be an interesting night tonight at the Abbotsford Center. The crowd's always awesome, right? Like I still remember the preseason game. It's such a tight, compact, sort of just great AHL arena that there was a time like during the anthems where someone screamed out like, McDavid, you suck, and you can hear it through the whole arena. So like this crowd gets wild. You're going to see a lot of people taking their shirts off at the Abbotsford Center. That's become a tradition, it feels like. It's a great crowd. It's a great team. They play good structured defense, and Jeremy Colleton's really got this team ready for the playoffs. It's going to be a very fun game tonight.
Now, regardless of the result, a lot of people will head out to Abbotsford to see Canuck prospects and whether or not there's potential for some players to make the National Hockey League. I've heard you talk on other programs about Linus Karlsson and what a pain in the ass he is to play against. Not a whole lot of people here know a whole lot about Linus Karlsson, except for the people who go to Abbotsford games on a regular basis. What can you tell us about him? He's second in scoring for the Canucks, Abbotsford version.
Yeah, he's going to lead them in goals for the season. He's probably going to be one of the leading guys scoring. And I think the interesting thing about Linus Karlsson is he was such a good power play scorer last year in the SHL. Comes over here, has an immediate impact at 5-on-5. And that's something that's kind of surprised me quite a bit, is it isn't just a sniper who does things on the outside. Like, he's big, he's tough. He's played in every single game this year for the Abbotsford Canucks. He's the only player to do that for the Abbotsford Canucks this season. He's a tough guy. He plays that role. Like in the AHL, he's a top 6 scoring winger. I'm curious to see what his game translates to at the NHL level, because if he can become a bottom 6 effective, tough guy who forechecks really hard, he might have a spot in the NHL pretty soon. And right now, he's probably one of the best players going right now for the Abbotsford Canucks, and he's been there all year. He's also a guy who just has that clutch gene to him. Like, he knows when he needs to step up for his team, and he's done it all season long. A lot of game-winning goals, a lot of game-tying goals. So he's going to be one of the more exciting guys to watch out tonight in Abbotsford.
Chris, the entire Canucks brass will be there. Who on this roster do you see needs a big playoff? Like a playoff to say to the brass, hey, guys, I'm here. Look at me. I'm coming for a spot in Vancouver.
I think Archer Seelovs is the first name, right? He's my expectation to be as the starter tonight for the Abbotsford Canucks. If he goes on a run here, he can make a serious case to be the backup in Vancouver next year, and it'll be interesting to see how they want to use that with a young guy in a scenario where he's backing up and not playing a ton, when the option that we've seen this year that they've used with Archer Seelovs is Ryan Johnson wanted to see close to 50 starts at the pro level for Archer Seelovs this year. He got there. He got there with some NHL games, some AHL games, so he's played a ton this past season. You think if he plays a big amount over this last little bit here in the playoffs, maybe that's done enough to get him a shot at the NHL. So he's one that I'd probably key in on the most to have the best chance of being in the NHL as an impact guy on day one. Niels Höglander and Danila Klimovich are the other two, kind of two different situations here. Niels Höglander should be in the NHL next year. I don't think there's much of an argument against that. It's going to be, how does he fit? How does he perform in these playoffs? We'll say a lot about that. with Klimovich, he's so young, 20 years old. Ryan Johnson talked about it. He could still be playing junior hockey, right? Like, this is a young kid in his second year. I don't know if it says so much about him playing consistently in the NHL next year, but if he shows well in these playoffs, wouldn't shock me to see Klimovich at some point next season and probably be a guy that they call up to play in like a middle six, top six role. Like, I don't think he's a guy you call up to play in the fourth line. If they trust what he does in the playoffs here, then has a good start next year in the AHL, I think Klimovich will play NHL games next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Has 17 goals as a 20-year-old is very good in the American League. You know, it wasn't long ago we said the Canucks had no defensemen in their farm system. And now all of a sudden, you know, Brisebois, Juleson, all these guys go up. They look good. But there was a kid from Sweden that showed up on the weekend, Philip Johansson. What are you expecting from him?
Very curious to see who he plays with. They've played Jet Wu on the left side a little bit. If you want to put him there, he could be playing with Jet Wu and Philip Johansson on maybe like a second pairing, or you could get real ultra offensive. Play Philip Johansson, who leans heavily into being an offensive defenseman. Play him alongside of Christian Wolanin, who we just know won AHL Defenseman of the Year, or play him with Jack Rathbone, who was a point per game defenseman in the AHL last year. Like, whoever Philip Johansson plays with, that pairing is going to be very fun. And I'm kind of hoping it's one of those ultra offensive ones. Like, I hope he's playing with Jack Rathbone, and I hope they just move the puck throughout their zone and just dominate in the offensive zone. It could be a lot of fun. Philip Johansson just came off of the SHL playoffs. There was games he was playing 24, 25, 26 minutes a night in the SHL in big playoff moments, and he was good throughout. So I think Philip Johansson had a big year in the SHL. He deserves this shot in North America, and I'm really happy that he's here to join the AHL team because I think this is a valuable step in the right direction for him growing in the organization. Him making that commitment to come in here and play in the AHL playoffs, I think that means a lot to the organization and how they see him developing here.
Okay, Chris, sort this all out for us. You cover that team like nobody else. Canuck players who Vancouver Canuck players who will be playing like Wolanin, like Juleson, who will be playing in this series for Abbotsford.
Yeah, you name the two defensemen that are going to be healthy and playing tonight. Phil DiGiuseppe just had the kid. They want to reward him for what he did this year. He won't be there.
Okay.
Vasily Podkolzin still nursing that hand injury. Sounds like he's getting closer, but he's not playing anytime soon. He won't be in this series. He might try and push for one later. Like, you can almost think of it as like a team that's actually in the playoffs, but had the player's eligibility to go down to the AHL. Like, Podkolzin can join them whenever, right? Like, he's got the opportunity to go down there whenever, if they win this series, if they keep going deeper, and he's like, hey, let's jump on in the semifinals. Like, you can do that with Podkolzin here. So I think they want to make sure that he's fully healthy before he starts getting with the team, and we'll see him out there at practice one day here in Abbotsford, and that would be a good sign for this team because he would be a very big boost to what this Abbotsford forward group looks like.
We could just stay here all day, and I could just go through the roster and name off a name and have you go crazy on telling us about these players. But let's go with Arshdeep Bains. We won't go through everybody, but Arshdeep Bains.
Yeah, I think this kid is just on a steady trajectory to becoming an NHL player. Like, he has improved on every aspect of his game this year. He was challenged at the start of the season to continue to work on the things that he did well at the WHL level that led him to being the leading scorer in that league, but they really wanted to kind of just resculpture his game and make him a penalty killer, make him sort of project to be a bottom six NHLer instead of, you're the top scorer in the WHL. You score a hell of a lot of points. You put up a lot of goals. You put up a lot of assists, power play, all this stuff. That's not what he's going to be at the pro level. So they challenged him at the start of the season, and it was a little rough at first. You saw some healthy scratches. But, man, since Christmas, this kid has just tuned it in. He's an excellent line mate for anyone else. Like, I have to imagine, just from watching the games, whoever sees that they're on Arshdeep Bains' line is like, okay, I'm getting some scoring chances tonight. Like, that's the type of impact that Bains has on a night-to-night basis. And, as a local kid, I'm sure he's going to have a lot of family out there tonight. And you can just tell, like, he really likes playing for a team that has a Canuck on it. Like, he likes playing for the Johnny Canuck logo. He's a Canucks fan through and through. He's just a great story for what's going on out there in Abbotsford.
Like I say, we keep you for a long, long time, but we won't do that. You've set the bar really high, Chris. Next time you're on, we're expecting a tie again, just to let you know.
Well, we'll see. If it's a Friday, I had another Hawaiian shirt ready to go.
Oh, okay, good point. You did that last time. Very good.
Next time.
Well, somebody's got to wear a tie around here. Thanks for that, Chris. Appreciate it. Chris Faber, Canucks Army. Abbotsford Canucks in Abbotsford tonight, Game 1 against Bakersfield.